guys, how's it going? Today I want to talk about our moon garden and all of these beautiful white blooming plants, plus a few foliage accents that we're going to be putting over in our moon garden, which is going in on the west side where we have our brick pathway, the 4 urns, the arborvitae hedge, the boxwood hedging, and the 5 red point maples. So we have our structures set up, and I think it's going to be a really pretty spot for a moon garden. And a moon garden is made up of stuff like this. So plants that bloom white, they might bloom just at night, or they're very fragrant. That's typically what people go for. Now this area we're planting in this year is full sun, so keep that in mind. These are all, I think, going to do really well in the conditions I'm going to put them in. But here's the deal. So this winter, when I was starting to plan out the moon garden, I was starting to think about what I wanted in there. I started to kind of stress myself out because I'm such a slow mover when it comes to putting in permanent plantings. And I just thought, you know what, I want to take my time doing that. So I got on Proven Winners website and I started making a list of everything that bloomed white, any annual that bloomed white. And I came up with this right here. And so I'm really excited to have them. I can't get them out in the ground today because we're supposed to have a 35-degree night tonight. A little bit too chilly for these, but I thought it would be fun just to show off what we just got in because it's exciting. I wanted to do an unboxing, but we didn't have time, so this is kind of my unboxing for you guys. And we thought we'd just go through each plant and talk about it, some of which I have a lot of experience with, and some I'm going to be trying for the very first time. And I'm going to be trying some of these both in the ground and in containers, so it should be really interesting. And in that moon garden space, I'm also going to be planting some vine crops, which it's been a little bit too cold to plant. I'm planting them from seeds, so I'm doing some watermelon that have green fruit, some honeydew melon, white eggplant, and white pumpkins. And I think it'll bring some whimsy into the space and something that makes it a little bit unique, because it's very formal over there. So adding those kind of touches in, I think, makes it a little bit fun in a way. So I think we're just going to start in with these, and we'll go over the foliage accents first because I wanted to talk about the fact that they are blue. So I think in moon gardens, I don't know what the rules are, and I really don't like to pigeonhole myself. So some of these kind of maybe push the rules, like our Supertunia latte right here has a little bit of a dark color throat, but I don't know, I think it fits in really nicely. But the foliage accents are blue, so I'm doing all shades of green with a little bit of touch of blue because I think that these glow as well. They have this really silvery color, they look beautiful, and I think really classic up against white blooms like that, so I think it's okay in this space. This one I have grown. This is called Icicles. It's a helichrysum, and I don't remember how tall, 8 to 16 inches tall, and they grow out quite large. So I mean, I could put just 3 of these in a space and get this nice big fluffy mound of blue, or I could just intersperse them in the border depending on what we end up deciding to do over there. Now this is a pretty large space, so I know that when I do in-ground plants, I'll probably end up putting quite a number of them together, because if you do one here and one there, if you've got a large flower bed, they kind of get swallowed up. You kind of need to create a larger kind of drift of something in order for it to be really eye-catching, I guess is the right word. But I really love this. This is a great one for containers too. The next one right here, I think people either love this one or they hate this one. I've kind of had mixed reactions whenever I use it. It's a Dichondra Silver Falls. Only grows 2 to 6 inches tall, and it will spread. So I had it in the urns on the west side last year, and it spread at least a couple feet, if not more. I want to say it was more than 24 inches. And I think the tag just says 24 inches. I posted a picture last year, and I think most people, the majority, maybe it was 60-40. 60% liked it, 40% didn't like it. But it has a very strict weeping habit. So it comes out of the side of the container and it's just like a curtain, and it will just keep growing down. It gets pretty thick. And so I think that the thought behind the people who didn't like it in that picture was that it did shroud the container a little bit. You couldn't see the beauty of the urn. So, I mean, I guess you could pick and choose where you use this sort of plant. Like in a hanging basket would be awesome. You use this in the jellyfish challenge container where you want the jellyfish tentacles, and then you do some flower for the upper part. Anyway, the other one over here, this is an Artemisia. Let me move the tag so you can see the plant, called Silver Bullet. I think this is a hardy one. This is a zone 5, so this is actually a perennial. It's more of kind of a ground cover, growing 6 to 10 inches tall, and I can't remember, out 14 inches or so. And I have some coming back both in containers and in our landscape. And I just think I like the boldness of that, because this one, if I put these two together, let me bring this one over here. So we've got very different textures there, and that's something, this garden in the end, once I eventually have most of the annuals replaced with perennial plants, it's going to be a well-curated garden. It's going to have to be. Whoops. Just because you want to make sure in a space like this that you are planning to have a lot of different textures, so it always looks pretty that way, and also a lot of different bloom times. So we want pretty things in the spring. So like this spring we had the Vidal tulips blooming underneath the maple trees, and I'm hoping to amp up even from there and add like snowdrops and some daffodils and things like that into that space for early color. And then we can come in with some cold tolerant annuals like this Bacopa. We'll just start with this one right here. This is a Sutera, the botanical name. This one's called Snow Globe. Huge white blooms. I've used this in a few containers this spring so far, but this one is fairly cold tolerant, which is very nice. So if you can get your hands on it early, you can plant it a lot earlier than a lot of other things, and it can withstand that. This one right here, I've learned that you really don't want to let this dry down on accident, because if that happens, which it does sometimes, it's really hard to recuperate the plant and make it look really good again. So it's one that if you have your pot set up on a drip system, it'd be perfect, because you know that that water is going to be consistently getting to that plant. And they do like to have consistent fertilization, which we try to make sure our pots get that all the time. I have grown this one in the landscape, like in the ground before. I haven't had as good a luck with it as I do in containers. So correct me if I'm wrong there. Maybe I'm not doing it right, but it tends to do well in containers and hanging baskets. And then the other one that does well in cooler temperatures is this one right here. This is a beast of a plant. So this one is a White Knight lobularia. There's also Snow Princess. There's a whole bunch of others that have different colors like Dark Knight and Blushing Princess, but White Knight and Snow Princess have white blooms, and they get enormous. And they will bloom from the second you get them early on in the spring all the way. Mine usually lasts till about Thanksgiving or really close. And one plant, so you'll plant this one small plant like this, and you'll end up with this gigantic plant from just this right here. So if you're really calculated about your plant choices in a large space, you don't necessarily have to spend a ton of money to have a huge impact if you choose the right stuff. So like the White Knight is awesome. So is the Supertunia Vista Snowdrift right here. This is a snowdrift. Vista series of Supertunia are different than your regular Supertunias, which this is a regular Supertunia white right here. The Vista series mounds a lot more, and they get huge. Last year we planted this around the maple trees over there on the west side, and Erin encouraged me to not pack the area out, which you guys know I am a huge fan of packing areas full of things even when it's not necessary to do that. So I only planted 6 of these around each maple tree, and then just within about a month and a half, it had completely filled that area. They just were amazing, and they had mounded up about this far. I mean, that's pretty awesome for a petunia. As opposed to like the regular Supertunia white, which I'm going to be planting in containers, I think the urns, I wanted this one because I don't necessarily want it to get as big as the Vista Snowdrift. So, you know, if you make your choices based on where you want to put them, you can really refine what your garden looks like based on the growth habits. I don't know if that makes sense, but I wanted one that I could control a little bit more, a little easier. And then, so I talked about the Supertunia latte. This is like pushing the envelope. I don't know, you guys might say that this is not a moon garden flower, but I think I might tuck some in because I really like the richness of this bloom. I like black and white gardens too, and it's possible in the end I might end up with a black and white garden, but who knows? This is an annual, and that's the beauty of doing it this way for the first year or two while I'm waiting to fill the space up with permanent things. I can try stuff out and decide if I like it. So Supertunia latte, I'm going to probably pop in the ground in a couple areas and see how it does. Next couple right here, this is a Bright Lights White Osteospermum or African daisy. Now I have grown osteos before, but not the white. So we'll see what happens. Sometimes white flowers as they age don't look as fresh, but these are supposed to be like self-cleaning, or they bury their dead. So what happens, let me pick this up and bring it right here so I can explain this to you. So what happens is the plant, you can see how it has its first flush of growth here, and then it blooms, and then it flushes again so that the new growth covers over the old growth. So once this plant is, you know, in the ground, it's more established and pushing more blooms, you'll just have continual new growth covering over the old growth. So we shouldn't even see these, and you can kind of see how it's done. That in this case, this was its first bloom. This is its next flush right here that's taller. So you can kind of see how it will happen as this plant gets a little bit older. And this one has a little bit, so it's white-ish, little tinge of yellow on the bottom. So maybe pushing it on that as well. But I think it's really beautiful. I did plant some echinaceas on one end and some daisies that have a yellow center, which I don't know if that's allowed either, but I think it brings a little bit, the bloom's still white technically, but it brings a little bit of color variation to make it interesting. But these don't get very big, like 8 to 12 inches tall is close, and space out about 10 inches. So this will be great for the border, I think, and it'll be interesting to see how these do. Next up are the, I don't know how to say this, Cleome? I don't know. This is called Senorita Blanca, and I was a little nervous because I was looking at the tag, and the tag looks like it's pink, like light pink. And I guess if you really tried hard to think it was pink, you might think it was the faintest of pinks, but it looks pretty white to me. This one I have not grown in our garden, 2 to 4 feet tall, and it's supposed to bloom all the way through a hard frost, I think. Yeah, planting through frost, and they spread out about 18 inches. So you kind of get like the David Phlox look, I think, without some of the issues that David Phlox deals with, like powdery mildew, but you get the same like globe-shaped clusters of blooms. I think the leaves are really interesting looking. I just think this is going to be a really fun one. And a lot of these grow short, so having something that grows taller will be nice to tuck a little further back into the border. And what haven't I talked about? So this one right here is one I have never grown before. It's an annual phlox that blooms all season long, so it doesn't just bloom in the spring like your perennial phlox. So it's called Intensia White, 8 to 12 inches tall, and it spreads out 12 inches. It's supposed to be really heat tolerant and drought tolerant. So this will be a really interesting one, again, for the front of a border. And I mean, like, see the difference here? If you're adding in a blue right there, different structures of blooms, different structures of foliage right there, makes it really interesting. Last few over here, this is a Superbina that's a beast. So it's a Superbina whiteout. There's only one bloom on it so far because it's really early in the season, and I actually groomed this one up a little bit because the branches, it wasn't fitting on the table properly. The branches were already wanting to spread out. So this one will get pretty good size. It's more of a ground cover type, so something that we can have spill onto the brick pathway maybe a little bit. I think it's really beautiful. Superbinas really do well in our area, and we're really hot and dry, so I have a whole bunch of Superbinas I want to use this year. I'm really excited about. And then of course we have our diamond collection, which I only have 2 up here on the table. We've got Diamond Mountain right here, which this is the biggest one of the series. So there's Diamond Snow, which is the smallest one, and this one like 8 to 10 inches, I think. 12 to 18, my word. I need to brush up on my sizes. But the Diamond Snow stays way more compact, and it has like the bloom to leaf ratio once it's grown a little bit is insane. And I have pictures of mine from last year. You couldn't hardly see any leaves if I am recalling it properly, but it was so full of white and so beautiful. This is great for containers, and that's probably where it'll be used, or the front of a border. The Diamond Mountain is different. So I planted some of this in the brick circle area with plain the blue salvia and lemon coral last year, and it did really well. There were beautiful layers. So the salvia was first kind of in the upper layer of the brick circle, and then the Diamond Mountain, and then the lemon coral down below. But this one gets 2 to 3 feet tall, and then it spreads out quite far as well, 18 inches. I think I'm going to be planting this around the maple trees this year because I really want it to be like this cloud ethereal kind of look right there. And they're super great in the full sun, and the fact that this one gets so big is awesome. And it really, like, this one can withstand and can hold up to some of the more vigorous plants like the snowdrift. Look how beautiful that is. So it's possible like I could plant a couple of these together and enjoy like that bold bloom with the more cloudy looking bloom. This one doesn't incorporate as good as the Diamond Frost, which is the one right in between these two. This one stays the smallest, and then Diamond Frost has got this really kind of branchy habit that really intermixes with other plants well. And then this one also becomes a little bit more of a block. Also, this diamond collection is the annual plant collection of the year, so it should be pretty easy to find. Although this year has been so wild, I don't think anybody was prepared or ready for the onslaught of ordering and purchasing of plants because, you know, most everybody's staying at home, obviously. So everybody is like wanting to beautify their space and do more gardening and do more projects at home, which I think is awesome. So just be patient with your garden centers. They're trying really hard, and with the places that you're ordering online, because just nobody could have planned for what happened. So anyway, it might be an interesting year just to see what I do with all of these and see what I succeed with and what I fail with, because I usually have a handful of both, and that way you can pick and choose what you want to do in your own space. So we will be showing you lots of different videos from that moon garden area. Not in this specific video today because it's supposed to be 35 degrees tonight, and these have all been in the greenhouse, so they're not quite ready for me to toss them out yet, but it will be very soon. So anyway, I just thought you guys would enjoy seeing some bright colors, and I would encourage you to try some white blooms. I know there are some people who are just like, oh, white blooms are so boring. And I understand what you're saying, because when you have really bright, fun colors, it is fun to look at, but they don't bring to the garden what white can, and extending the amount of time that it looks beautiful into the night, and sometimes all the way through the night, when you've got them placed just right and they're reflecting that moonlight and looking beautiful. So I'm really excited to cultivate this space and just to see what happens out there. So anyway, thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed it, and we will see you in the next video. Bye.